That, that is too much. Nicolas Cage's face. Normally starting to realize how bad it's getting. That is, hey, listen, that's true. It's so true. That's so funny. Welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe, everybody. Joe Pasola, Joe Rossinello, going live. What is it, Joe? Is it 9 o'clock your time on the East Coast? 9 o'clock Eastern time, Thursday night. We're up against the Republican National Convention, but we don't care because we're gonna still be here and end with enough time to go watch Trump's speech. Joe, what do you say?
Dude, that meme says it all. It says it all. People are starting to open their eyes to the madness. They're starting to open their eyes because it is madness. And I got news for you. We got 4 months till the election. Expect more madness. I'm not saying the same exact thing, but expect more madness. These people are not going to concede. Joe Biden now says he has COVID. He just had another absolute and utter disaster speech in Nevada. They pulled him. He's
Joe,
back in the basement.
He doesn't have COVID.
Whatever it is. I mean, COVID, whatever. By the way, just so people know, he got vaccinated. He's got COVID. So that debunks one of the claims, number one. Number two, he didn't have a mask on. He hasn't had a mask on. So that's another absolute and utter hypocrisy. And he's back in the basement. We will say, and Chuck Schumer has admitted publicly he is going to go see him in Delaware to ask him to step down.
No
public information.
Listen. I don't normally listen. I've been watching Fox News only to watch the convention. Okay, I don't really pay much attention. But Jesse Waters did make a good point. Their identity politics is it's going to cause a lot of problems over there on the left because they're not. The word is that they're not endorsing Kamala Harris. They're not saying, Joe, step aside and let Kamala become president. They're saying, we're going to have an open convention. Joe, it's not going to be an open convention. Let's be clear. These are the Democrats. They already have the person chosen who they want to run against Trump, whoever that might be. And it ain't Kamala Harris. You could go to the bank on that.
She can't win. She can't win. She has
and they know that. That's my point. That's my point.
Win. And neither can Joe. Neither can Joe at this point. My bet is still Hillary. I say they
can't. I don't think I think she gets beat this time around. She gets spanked worse than the first time because Lara Trump. Maybe Lara's been listening to the front line with Joe and Joe. My understanding, again, I'm taking them at their word. She's the co-chair of the RNC right now, Trump's daughter-in-law. That the ground game is a lot different than it was in 2020. There's going to be partisan representatives in the places where they count the votes, in the places where they check the chain of command. Okay, there's going to be some checks and controls on this. Now, Joe, these are not stupid people. Fulton County, Georgia. Okay, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Maricopa County, Arizona. Because I could tell you about 2022 anecdotally here in our election when Kari Lake ran for governor. Okay, and what happened at the place I was voting. They know this, Joe. They know that the Republicans, they're telling everybody, don't wait till Election Day. Listen, Joe, fight fire with fire. I'm going to vote early. Why should I take a chance and go there on Election Day and worry that they're going to try shenanigans? Get 95% of the Republican vote in before Election Day even starts. Then maybe if we could get power, maybe we could have, like Vivek said, a national election day. Okay, so you're right. It's going to get crazy. But if they think they're going to stick Joe Biden in the basement and they're going to be able to do what they did the last time, Joe, I think they're in for a rude awakening.
Lightning doesn't strike twice, but I'll say it again. They're not going to concede. They have at least 3 plans in place. It is going to get crazy. They absolutely, positively do not have anything to run on. And we're going to talk about that as the show goes on, because their only platform was Trump was Hitler and gaslighting any person who chooses to vote for them. And now they can't say that because he was just shot. It was taken away. They have no policy to run on. It's only hatred, pure black as coal hatred, and it's been taken away, which means they have to take Joe away.
Hey, listen, I want to play you something, all right? that Tucker Carlson said, which I think is spot on, and it's going to resonate with the American people. But Joe, let's be clear: Donald Trump's going to win because he moved away from guys like us. He didn't abandon us. I'm not going to go that far. And I've been listening to a lot of Catholics on Twitter, mostly. I keep calling it on X. Okay, listening to a lot of Catholics. They're all making sense in one way or another. I feel somewhat abandoned by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, okay, because of the life issue. But then you got to remember, too, they also had Amber Rose up on stage, too, all right? I mean, like this is a woman who's pro-abortion, not pro-choice, pro-abortion, okay, pro-LGBT. So they're moving away from us. Now, here's the difference, and then I'll throw it over to, or then I want to play something for you. The difference is, though, if I go out into the public square and protest against the Amber Roses, or if I go in front of Planned Parenthood and pray the rosary with 100 Catholic men, all right, and try to sway people to move to not have abortions, women going in and try to convince them not to, okay? Here's what's not going to happen. Merrick Garland is not going to come knocking down my door to arrest me, okay, in a Trump DOJ. That father who went in front of the school board and said, you knew that my daughter was raped and you didn't tell me, and he yelled at them. That guy won't get arrested under Donald Trump. So I'm trying to take away as much as I can, if you know what I mean. I'd love a comment, Joe, then I want to play a clip.
Well, ultimately, America was never Catholic. And ultimately, it's a spiritual battle. That's why we have to pray. That's why we have to fast for this country. And God will right the ship. He will. Because whenever there's sin, grace abounds that much more. And I'll be truthful with you. People don't want to hear the Catholic line. Joe, Catholics don't want to hear it. The country needs to be converted. That's why I've heard this from many people too. I don't expect America to change as a result of this election. Yes, it's going to be better as far like I'm voting for Donald Trump. I want definitely this regime to be gone. With that said, though, these people still believe what they believe, and they're not going anywhere.
Right.
They're not going anywhere. And it's a lot of people that believe in this agenda, at least 40% of America. And many of these ideas are downright horrible.
You're talking about
Horrible.
Democrats.
Yes, horrible. Hurt people. Hurt people. So they're still here. And
Well,
that's
listen,
why that's why the election isn't really going to change America.
No,
People
but
got to get that out of their head.
It would give us time.
It buys
to fight
time.
the way we, yeah, but no, but hear me, Joe, for a second. I'm not talking about politically. It would buy us time to keep the pedal to the metal. The people that are doing what we're doing and a whole lot more than that, okay, to try to raise the consciousness of the American people, which means really uplift the American people spiritually to understand the evils that are confronting us, okay? We're able to do that. I'm going to give the Trump regime the credit that at least guys like us don't have to worry about our free speech.
No, I get it.
That's what I mean.
It's much better.
I don't want to listen. I don't need Donald Trump to fight the abortion fight for me. I live in Arizona. Okay, I should be fighting the abortion fight here in Arizona until the Supreme Court says there's a right to life and all abortions are ended. It's now on us. I'm not going to look to Trump to change that. I'm not. I think he should rethink his position on the abortion pill, because you've mentioned on this show numerous times how dangerous it is.
Very dangerous.
But
I read an article. It's very, very dangerous for women. Very.
Oh no, it's horrible. It's horrible. And listen, the more people get educated on that pill, the more people are going to open their eyes. But here's what's going to resonate, Joe. Listen to this.
Tucker, the past 24 hours has been wild, the amount of news that has come out. How did the attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump change this election?
Well, Trump won when that happened because he displayed physical courage. And, you know, if you live in a society where people are literally dating by remote, virtually, and working virtually, you can kind of lose touch with the physical reality of life. But the unchanging truth is that leadership requires courage, and not just abstract courage, moral courage, but physical courage. You know, someone starts shooting a rifle. Like, are you going to wet yourself and start crying and run away? Or are you going to stand up and look at your people and raise your fist and say, fight? And very few people are capable of doing that. And he is. And therefore he wins. because that supersedes all this nonsense that we talk ourselves into believing is important. No, the guy got shot in the face. He stood up with blood streaming down the side of his head, blood on his hands, and said, "Fight!" Totally defiant. That's an act of undeniable courage that was not staged. You couldn't stage that. And that man is the leader, and he wins. And by the way, notice what happens to everyone in the crowd. When a leader is strong, his people are calm. His courage gives them heart. That's true for a father, and it's true for a president. So, yeah.
So Tucker's spot on, and this is going to resonate with people. And I'm going to tell you another thing too, Joe. Tucker mentioned it, but it does come to mind. Joe, nobody was running. Nobody was running away while bullets were being fired. Okay? These people are not some moronic, zombie-like people who are sycophantic listening to every word Trump is saying. All they're doing is responding to somebody who's got the stones to say what needs to be said. That's what Trump has. And I'm going to tell you, he does. Tucker's right. Aside from the crowd staying right there and then starting to chant USA, Trump getting up like that, Joe, that's not ever been seen in our history.
No,
Anything
it was
like
it
that.
was an iconic American moment. Would people like it or not, like Donald Trump or not, that image is going to be around as long as America is around.
That's right.
That's a fact. And you know, to be honest with you, it was an act of providence. Do you realize how close he was to dying? I mean, we're talking, look how close your ear is to your skull.
Right.
It's an inch. He's dead. He's dead. So that was absolutely, utterly God's providence that saved him. I'm not saying anything more than that. And there's a purpose for it. I am going to go on record. A year from now, Donald Trump will not be the president. I continue to say that. They will stop at nothing.
But then why did God's if it's
Maybe they're
God,
going to, I don't know.
This is me being, because I've been here. It's all you've been hearing. They're saying it I got the convention on in the next room. Okay. It's all you're hearing is it's providence. I've gotten to an argument, not a bad one, of course, with my wife. Because I said because my wife believes it's providence. And quite frankly, Joe, I do too.
No, I do as well.
But here's the thing. This is where I'm going to push back on you a little bit. Why'd God save him if he's not going to be president in a year from now, unless he does something that's going to be radical within the first year? Because God's not going to save Donald Trump to do nothing.
No, I get it. I'm not God, but this is why, and we're going to talk about it more with some other clips. Two things. He threatens the establishment. Power is never given. It's taken. They're not going to tolerate it. That's number one. Number two, there are too many people who have heard for the last 5 years that he is the devil and believe it. And that's what, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how you stop that. Like, there are so many people out there that would have been so happy that if he was killed, maybe they're not saying it. I will guarantee you they're saying it in their house. And there are not as many people that would do the same thing.
Let me tell you something. Nancy Pelosi walked into her house on Saturday night and she pulled the Salazzo from the Godfather. 5 shots. They hit him with 5 shots and he's still alive. Remember when he
well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to say who said what. I'm going to just make general statements.
I'm just saying it reminds me of Salazzo from The Godfather. That was the collective phrase on the left was they hit him they missed him by a millimeter and he's still alive.
No, but I don't know what, but I'm just saying, let me say this. I'm not God. I can't predict the future, but I will publicly go on record again. I will be amazed by next 4th of July if he is the president of the United States, for the simple fact that not only is the government going to try to take him down by any means necessary, but there are so many sickos that believe he is Adolf Hitler.
Did you hear what Alex Jones said?
No.
Alex Jones And I want to play this clip because you actually just mentioned the Mein Führer, okay, Adolf Hitler, not mine. You could see the way things like that get misinterpreted. Alex Jones thinks Trump's either going to get poisoned or they're going to do a truck bomb. Now I don't want to see either, but understand this: if he's right about the truck bomb or something along those lines, that ain't just going to take out Trump. That's going to take
they
out
don't
anybody
care.
who's around him.
They
Oh, I know
don't.
they don't care.
They don't
They
care.
can take out
They
him, Barron,
absolutely
Melania.
don't care. And I wish I didn't feel that way. I'll be amazed if he's around by 4th of July. But I will say this: that will be the biggest mistake they ever make. For this reason, it will cement him into history. It will cement the MAGA movement in this country for decades.
Joe, these MAGA guys are going to pick up their guns and they're going to start shooting people if that.
Well, they
happens.
want that, Joe.
I know. Well, no, this is what the Marxists want.
No, but
See,
they want
Soros
that.
and his ilk. We always have to remember their goal is civil unrest. Their goal is violence.
No, they
because
want that.
they want to assume as much power to the government to quell that violence as they possibly can. But here's the thing, Joe, the Lincoln Project, right? They're Republicans, right? They're never Trump or Republicans. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
The Lincoln Project, they're not Democrats. Here, get a load of this.
By the way, no,
everybody.
before you play that, this video was made on the 16th of July after the assassination attempt.
Keep that in mind.
Hitler didn't just seize power. It was handed to him by the wealthy, by the powerful, by a compliant elite, by people who thought they were above the angry masses and violent anti-Semites. He was given power by Germans who knew what he believed, but thought they could contain him, control him, that his crazed speeches and dangerous antics were just for show, that his hatred would never turn on them. But like every dictator before or since, Hitler used his power to bring death, despair, and tragedy to the world. Before the world said, never again, millions of Germans believed it can't happen here. Germany bet wrong in 1933. Will we?
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
Do you understand? There aren't words to describe the people that produced that video, particularly, as you said, after and still released it after he was shot.
That's why
they
he
don't
was shot,
understand,
no?
or maybe like you said, Joe, maybe they just don't care. But here's the thing: I would say these MAGA guys, they start picking up guns. Guess who's the first people going to be running for the hills? Are people like that? Now, I don't own a gun. You don't own a gun. We're certainly not endorsing that whatsoever. But stuff like that, when you call me, not like I don't know who I'm voting for. You voted for Joe Biden, and I don't know who I'm voting for. The guy he literally is Weekend at Bernie's. He's dead on his feet.
No, I know.
It's not an exaggeration. So you're going to criticize me because I'm pro-life and I want pro-life judges, or I want an end to the deep state, or I don't want Mark Houck getting arrested by Merrick Garland's DOJ because he protected his son in front of an abortion clinic from getting attacked. I'm the bad guy and I don't know what I'm voting for with Donald Trump. This is what Jesus.
That is why he was shot. That video and that type of rhetoric is why he was shot, and that's why he is going to be shot again and killed. Because they're not stopping. I listened to a clip by Joy Reid today. Joy Reid basically says no matter who is running, ours can't win because of white Christian nationalism. That is right out of their mouth, and people believe it. They see Donald Trump as the devil and people who support him as the devil. And that's exactly why he was shot.
What about
Get that through your head, people. And that's why it's not going to stop until he's dead.
Joe, what about the black guys that support him? What about the Hispanics that support him?
What about all those? Because what people have to, Joe, it's not about the people. That's what people have to see. And it's starting to happen. That's good news. It's about power. You see, I feel nothing but sorry for people who actually believe in their heart that Joe Biden's regime is for them. He's pummeling you financially. We're about to play in a little bit The Teamsters just spoke at the Republican National Convention, the first time in the history of America. That says to me that people are starting to open their eyes to the bullcrap. And that's their worst fear. Joe Biden was nothing more than Democratic, old school Democratic wrapping paper. Underneath is a secular humanist, cultural communist agenda, which embraces globalism, which is plowing the middle class into the ground across the world. And if you don't want to admit that, I feel nothing but pity and sorry for you and your children.
Well, you know their attitude. Their attitude, yeah, but he's going to make sure that abortion is kept legal. He's going to make sure, on all this, on all the issues that really hurt these people. They don't even realize that when you're paying $5 a gallon for for a gallon of gasoline, okay, you're getting taxed, people. Okay, rich guys, they don't care if the gas is. They don't care if gas is $10 a gallon.
Insulated.
They're rich. They're rich. It's amazing. But like I said, listen, I remember back in the day, because I come from a family of Teamsters. My father was a Teamster. I had my card at one point a long time ago. Back in the day, Jackie Presser, the president of the Teamsters Union, endorsed Ronald Reagan. It was unprecedented because this is the Teamsters Union, and they endorsed Ronald Reagan. I believe it was in 1980. The Teamsters turned on Jackie Presser. Anyway, long story short, they went back to their old ways. Well, here's the Teamsters president. He's not only evidently supporting Donald Trump, but he's speaking at the RNC.
Elites have no party. Elites have no nation. Their loyalty is to the balance sheet and to the stock price at the expense of the American worker.
He gets it.
Now, ordinarily, I saw this guy. He almost got into a fist fight with one of the senators when he was up there on the Hill testifying. And he's a brash. I'm sure he's Irish. All right.
No, he's from Boston. He's nuts.
I bet you my bottom dollar he's Catholic too. But here's the thing, and I'd love to have him on the show. Maybe we'll reach out to him and we'll do an interview with him. I bet, like a lot of blue collar people, he's tired a lot of the nonsense that he got put up with from the left. And also, he mentioned elites. All right. And he mentioned corporate boardrooms and stock prices. Joe, that's all the left now. That's not the right anymore, or the impression that people have had of the Republican Party and conservatives that the left has painted them with for decades. The boardrooms now are BlackRock. They're infiltrated with BlackRock people, Vanguard people, State Street people, Bill Gates. Okay, George Soros money. They're all elites. They're only worried about stock prices. Joe, the NASDAQ is at an all-time high. So is the Dow. And a gallon of gas is $5 a gallon. Okay? And inflation is coming down now. But after 3 years or 2 years at least of rate cuts, and inflation wasn't even a problem before Biden got in there. Why do you think the president of Teamsters is there? Because he knows his guys, the dollars that they earn, and they earn well, Joe. Okay? The dollars that they earn, are not going as far. And he's got to represent his men and women in the Teamsters Union and get out there and fight for them. You know what he's probably saying to himself? You know what? Trump's had to employ all these construction guys. They're our union brothers and sisters. They went out there. They got good wages. They got good benefits. He never complained about it. He made billions of dollars employing all that union labor. You know what? I think I'm going to take a look at this guy. And he's speaking at the RNC.
Well, ultimately, a couple points. There are unions that are giving him slack. I listened to a clip by Glenn Greenwald today about this speech. Very good, very informative. I advise people to listen to it. He broke with many labor unions. They're giving him slack. They still are basically in the old model. My father was a union guy on the railroad. But he's right. The parties are flipped. However, there are Republicans, Chamber of Commerce Republicans, that have to go. And I will tell you this. What's happening right now in America is unprecedented, politically speaking. And let me break it down. Latinos are going towards Donald Trump. The black vote is up and around 20%. Unprecedented, and that's going to continue to rise. And now you're getting labor. This is a nightmare if you're a Democrat. Seeing that man, he has 1 million people that he represents across the nation. And J.D. Vance has stuck up for the Teamsters, and so has Josh Hawley, who has marched with the Teamsters in Missouri. So a voice of labor is going on in the Republican Party. And if that cements, because ultimately it's a veneer, the Democratic Party in their support for labor is a veneer because of what you just said earlier. Taxing gasoline and because of inflation is a direct tax on the middle class and the working poor. He's taking money out of your pocket and giving lip service to your union, and people are waking up. And when that happens, they're done. They're done because ultimately the Democratic Party is for elites and it's for cultural Marxists, and it does not support the working class. That party is dead. And the more people see it, and they are seeing it, they're finished. They're finished.
Joe, my problem is this, okay? And I'm trying not to be cynical. Hey, Colin, what's happening, brother? Good to see you again. And everybody else, Teresa, Tracy, thanks for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Who else do we have in here? Antonella's with us tonight. We had Shauna Vision with us tonight. KC Royals fan. So usual suspects. Thanks a lot, guys. Share the video wherever you are, especially if you're on X or Rumble. Please share, but wherever you are, please help us out. Here's my fear, Joe, and I'm trying not to be a purist, and I'm trying to listen to those Catholic voices on X, people who are very intelligent, Joe. They know church teaching. They know what our duties and obligations are as voters, okay, and what we're supposed to do. I'm trying to use my prudential judgment, but here's the thing. If the Democrat Party is going to become a party of globalists and elites, you're right.
It already is.
All right, but the globalists and elites need to be extricated from the Republican Party. But here's what I don't want. The Republican Party cannot abandon those issues that are near and dear to us. And there might have to be, I guess for political reasons, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and Carrie Lake, and all of a sudden they sound like they're pro-choice, even though I thought they were pro-life. Okay, I get it. Okay, but if we start moving more and more towards unfettered abortion, or all of a sudden we're going to start embracing transgenderism and we're going to start having to use pronouns, well, then the Republican is no different than the old Democrat Party, and we find ourselves back in the place where we started. So the Republicans cannot go. Look, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm not a prude, okay? All right? I did not lead a Catholic life for a long time, okay? I would have met women like Amber Rose in my life, all right? She shouldn't be there. She shouldn't be at the RNC. I'm sorry. She said, listen, let me ask you. I'll throw it over to you. We have to embrace everybody. The Democrats won't embrace RFK Jr. They won't embrace RFK Jr., who agrees with them on 8 out of 10 things. And they won't embrace him as somebody who could actually beat Trump because he disagrees with them on 2 things. Why can't we act like them and say, we love the fact that you love to join us, but you're going to have to change your views before you do? Well, why do we have to adapt our views to them, Joe?
Because, to be honest with you, not enough Catholics prescribe to what the Catholic Church teaches.
What about larger Christians in general, but conservative
they don't care
Protestants?
about abortion. Joe, we're a minority that doesn't matter. I'm going to speak X's and O's. If I'm a political strategist, I don't care because there's not enough people. That's our fault. That's our fault. That's not their fault. All they're doing is basically reading the tea leaves. That's our fault. And I'm not a Republican. I'm a Catholic. I'm just speaking X's and O's politically as far as what I see. The answer is not a political solution. I've said that for friggin' ever. It's a spiritual, it's not even a culture war. It's a war against the devil. This is evil. Killing children is evil. It's not political. It has nothing to do with politics. And ultimately, God is not going to bless a nation that mutilates children and kills babies in the womb. That's bottom line. That's bottom line. Politically speaking, though, is another conversation. Ultimately, I am not a Republican. I'm not a conservative. I have no label except one. I am a Catholic. I prescribe to everything the Catholic Church teaches. I'm voting in the best effort that I can. I'm not a MAGA Republican. Donald Trump is not the Messiah. None of it. But it's better than what it was. And America has to repent. I pray every single morning a Father John Hardin prayer for the conversion of America, and have for a few years.
Well, here's the thing. You mentioned something earlier. You used the phrase buying time. Okay. Let's hash this out before we move on a little bit. Buying time. What does that do? Well, number one, it shifts the responsibility away from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and it shifts it to our shoulders, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. The Supreme Court has signaled loudly, okay, that they want out of the culture war. All right. Now you saw that with the Dobbs decision. Okay. And I think you're going to see that even more, Joe. I think they're going to pull out the Supreme Court out of all these things. Listen, Louisiana just put the 10 Commandments and ordered it to be on all their buildings. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, it's a great move.
Now what's going to happen is when they introduce, now I believe in Missouri or Tennessee, or somewhere in the Midwest there, they want to introduce the Bible back into the public schools. Okay, this is going to be a direct challenge. I forgot. Forgive me, everyone out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe. I forgot the case that the Supreme Court issued a decision where they took prayer out of schools. See, this is going to usher in the Supreme Court saying, no, that's a state's issue. If you want to have the Bible, if you want to put a cross on the public school building, go right ahead. The Supreme Court's got nothing to say about that. You're not establishing a religion. And they're gonna rule the right way on these things. So my question to you, and it is a question, I know I always give long-winded questions, Joe, is that the Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision and the Chevron decision, which overturned Chevron deference, which I don't know if people realize just how important that is, that the courts and the Congress cannot kick the ball to the agencies anymore, allowing them to write whatever regulations they want. Now they have to go to court or they have to go in front of Congress to do that. Joe, you don't understand how big a blow that is to the deep state. If they kill Donald Trump, they're going to have to kill a couple of Supreme Court justices too. All right, because of decisions like that. That is a bad blow to them. Now, my point is, if that power is taken out of Washington and brought back to the states, my view of buying time is, well, then we better get ready. We bought some time, but now God in his providence is shifting your responsibility to you and to me and to all of us out here to get out there and keep fighting these battles, which ultimately redounds to the greater glory of God. Throw it over to you.
It's always been our battle. And it's always been. Because ultimately, when we improve the nation, family by family, we improve the people who represent us. We get the government we deserve. And that's why we can't vote ourselves into a moral nation. We can't vote ourselves out of many of our problems. We just can't. There are Band-Aids that we could put on problems. But ultimately, some of the larger issues, the breakdown of the family, children who frankly are suffering from addictions, abortion, depression. Those things aren't going to get resolved.
Right.
These are people who are our future. 40% of our children are born out of wedlock. People don't get married. I mean, I could go on and on. Fatherlessness, divorce. All these are problems that are rotting and have been rotting America from the inside out. Donald Trump's not fixing that. But ultimately, God will. We have to do our part.
That's what I meant.
In our family first. But I don't absolutely positively do not believe the solution is political. It's absolutely positively not political. It rests, keep this in mind, 12 men changed the world. 12. If people took their faith serious and are willing, in that interview, we cut it off, but Tucker Carlson goes on to say, you have to be willing to sacrifice. If you're not willing to sacrifice, don't talk.
Can I say something? Do you believe in your heart of hearts after what you saw last Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, that Trump is willing to sacrifice?
Absolutely. Donald Trump does not have to do this. He is worth tons of money. He could be sitting on a yacht. He's 78 years old. He has proven that. He was willing to get shot, and I got news for you. It's just the beginning. Ultimately, I'm not saying we have to get shot, but we have to be willing to sacrifice. Make your voice known. Go to school boards. Pull your kids out of school, which means you have to, it costs you money. It costs you money.
Right.
These are the type of things to send them to private school to
Or
do.
go run. Listen, if you have a job, go run for the school board.
But
Rally
this
the
is
people.
the type of stuff you have to do. People have to be vocal.
I'm
People
sure that's
have
a pretty good paying job too. It's a government
People
job.
have to risk something. If you're not willing to do that, to be honest with you, nothing gets done. And that is what everyone has to do. You don't have to take a bullet, but you have to put your skin in the game. And also probably your wallet. And this is what people don't want to do and haven't done. And that's why we're in the situation. How about this? How about we'll start small. How about take your family to church on Sunday? How's that?
There's a radical notion, Joe.
That doesn't cost you a dime, and it's an hour. How about we start there? But we don't even do that. So, like, ultimately, these are the things, the building blocks that fix the nation, where we start thinking in the right way.
Well, I think that ultimately what we're going to get. Thank you, Colin. By the way, thanks for contributing.
Yeah,
brother.
thank you, brother. You're a good man.
Always helping us. We really appreciate it. Ultimately, I think what's going to happen is that Trump is going to basically give us what I like to call breathing room. We can't breathe right now. We have 10 million illegals in this country. JD Vance is exactly right. We have to go on a mass deportation. We have to deport the illegals that are here.
That's never going to happen. I know they're saying it.
I don't believe that, Joe. I think it will happen. I think Trump is going to fund ICE. I think they're going to get out there that they know. JD Vance said, "Look, the government knows where a lot of these people are. Not all of them, to be clear, but a lot of them. Okay, and we have to just bring them right back across the border. All right, and I do believe that's going to happen. Law enforcement needs to have some teeth, and it will happen. Now you'll get rid of that. You got to shut down the border. We have to breathe as far as immigration is concerned.
The border should have been shut down, and that's another thing that people. If Joe Biden betrayed the very people that he says he supports, that has lowered the wages for the working poor, that has hurt rent prices in those neighborhoods. It has hurt the African-American communities because those people are taking your jobs in those poor communities in the inner city. That's documented. He betrayed, and more people are seeing it. That's why Donald Trump campaigned in the Bronx. You listen to the interviews of the people. They're taking our resources. They're taking our schools because they want their votes.
Right.
And you no longer are giving them the amount of votes that they needed.
They
so you're
moved
out.
on from them.
And that's what people are starting to see, which is a good thing.
The Democrat Party has moved on from African Americans. Okay, the Democrat Party now has a new person or group of people that they're looking to. They'll include giving lip service to African Americans, but you're not putting on your chain like you're supposed to be a good, obedient African American. I won't use the word that a lot of people use, okay, even though it's a slang. All right, but you need to be an obedient black person, and you need to listen to your white liberal and your black liberal slave masters, okay? When you look at some of these black liberal establishment types, okay, they're enslaving their own people too, and they have for decades. That's a whole other conversation. The Democrat Party has created a new type of person. In other words, you have your immigrant, you have homosexuals, you have transgenders, you have people that actually believe there's more than two genders. This is the new man. These are the people. The poor immigrants are going to vote. Or the illegal immigrants are going to vote for the Democrats because the Democrats are going to promise not to deport them. Okay. And they're going to get more than the people in Hawaii did who are American citizens after a natural disaster. They're getting actually more money. So those people are going to vote. The transgenders, most of the homosexuals, they're all going to vote for the Democrats. The Democrats I'll give you a new replacement theory. The Democrats are replacing African Americans and Hispanics with transsexuals, homosexuals, and illegal immigrants. That's what they're doing. And they need to, or else they'll never win another election.
The legal immigrants are happening all over the world. That is part of globalism.
That's the globalist. Yeah.
That is that's not conspiracy. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Ireland. I saw clips this week. They're arresting Irish people who are protesting peacefully to basically say this has to stop.
Right.
Why? Ask yourself why they're doing that. They're doing that to lower the wages of nationals in those countries, which ultimately enslaves the population because poor people are easily controlled. And it's happening all over the world. This is not some coincidence. It's the same playbook. It's happening everywhere, everywhere. And I'm for immigration, but opening your border, open borders, one world government, that's like right out of the Antichrist's playbook. That is pure, unadulterated craziness. A country deserves its border, and a country should share its wealth with immigration. And it shouldn't be merit-based immigration, but there has to be rules and regulations. They have to be vetted, and that's not happening. And that's a globalist ideology that is destroying the working poor, and all of which is part of the game plan. The globalists are destroying regular people, and people have to see it because guess what? You're a regular person and you're going down. Period. End of story. Talk to people in Europe. Talk to people in Canada. It's happening in real time. And guess what? Soon it's going to happen here. It's already happening.
In Canada, in Toronto, they elected a conservative MP, right? Member of Parliament, the Canadian Parliament. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe?
Yes, correct.
All right. And Trudeau came out and says, oh, we have to address this. I understand your frustration. No, he doesn't. He's a globalist. In France, if you dare to pick up your head and vote against Macron, what happens to you? He dissolves parliament. It's just that simple. The British voted before Donald Trump. The British voted for Brexit. They're still waiting for Brexit. Okay. They're still waiting for it to get a meaningful exit.
Is that a democracy? And that's another thing people have to open their eyes to. They believe the world is ending because of CO2 emissions. Or they're using it as a tool, one of the two, but ultimately the end result is power to them and away from you. And if you think that Joe Biden has helped the middle class, you're not paying attention to your food bill every week, and you're not paying attention to your checkbook. I'll tell you, I spend in New Jersey on 7 people in a house, $1,300 a month on food. And I am not eating steak. I'm eating food. $1,300 a month. That is almost, that's over $5,000, dude. Like it's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. And I got news for you.
It ain't like you're buying steaks.
No. And I'm a professional. I'm a professional.
Right.
So this is my point. People are drowning. They're drowning. And you have to just come to the realization that this idea, any politician, Republican or Democrat, that embraces globalism, they do not embrace the middle class. The second they say that, turn the television off.
Well,
turn the television off. And that's where the Teamster, he was right. They don't have a party. They don't have a party, and they don't support you. Get it through your head. Get it through your head.
I'm glad he mentioned globalists, and I'm glad he mentioned elitists, because globalists and elitists are the enemy of the working man. Here's a guy I'm shocked at.
Stance matters isn't for these kind of short-term electoral calculations. He matters because of what he means to the Republican Party long-term. This is cementing a kind of nationalism. Yeah. Now, Trump, to your point, I agree with you. He's an instinctive, impulsive, intuitive nationalist. J.D. Vance is an ideological nationalist. That's a much more dangerous virus because he can polish this stuff and make it seem palatable to people. He can sell this stuff to Silicon Valley. He can sell this stuff other places. And what it does is it locks the Republican Party on a pathway that I think is dangerous for the world. Again, the Ukrainians are now in deep trouble. NATO is now in deep trouble. Trump he could have gone with a Nikki Haley and signaled to the world, hey, listen, I got to give stuff to my base, but I'm not going to abandon the world. This pick is a horror on the world stage. So J.D. Vance matters because Donald Trump is pointing the Republican Party in a very scary direction for the long term.
So here's what bothers me about Van Jones, who sometimes can make sense, most of the time does not. J.D. Vance is a threat because he's actually worried about workers. J.D. Vance grew up in Appalachia. His mother's at the convention, who is just now 10 years sober. He was raised by his grandmother, who he says could barely walk. Okay. But she was tough as nails. That's who he was raised by. Here's a guy went to the military, Yale Law School, highly educated, successful businessman, and he's actually worried about the globalist policies that Van Jones actually thinks are probably good and make MAGA dangerous because we embrace policies that are going to help workers. J.D. Vance Trump is proposing that. J.D. Vance has his back when it comes to that. They're anti-globalist. They're anti-elitist. And Van Jones says, well, that's a really dangerous path to be on. Look at the Ukraine. Joe, F the Ukraine. That's what I got to say. I don't want one more dollar going to the Ukraine.
Well, ultimately, I'll be truthful with you. Thank God he didn't choose Nikki Haley or Mark Rubio.
He loses.
But they're done. He loses. And this was a good pick for people. That's Americans. And our responsibility is to our country first. That's number one, to the American worker first. Do you know that when he was talking about the Democratic Party, J.D. Vance said, I can relate, get this, more with the Bernie Sanders supporters than I can with the mainstream Democrat now. Why is that? Not the cultural aspect of the Bernie Sanders people. It's the oligarch statements by the Bernie Sanders people because they're right. They diagnose the problem correctly. It's the solution they disagree with. J.D. Vance represents American workers. That's why the Teamsters were at the Republican Party. Absolutely, positively. And anyone, I'll say it again, that is for globalist ideologies or policies, you're anti-worker. Van Jones is insulated. He's insulated financially from this. It doesn't affect him. And here's another thing. What's wrong with being a nationalist? That means you're a patriot. Right. To me, that's a compliment calling me a nationalist. I have broad ideas. I'm not like, I don't want to live in seclusion from the world, but my first responsibility is to my own people. And that makes me a patriot. And that should be every American's responsibility and priority. Before I help anyone, I have to help my own family. Before I feed anyone, I have to feed my children. And the same goes for the country. If you're not pro-worker, you're not pro-America, period. And if you're pro-globalist, you're not pro-worker. You're not pro-middle class. Get it through your head. Right. Call yourself a Democrat. Call yourself a Republican. Call yourself a conservative. Call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. You're going to be poor. You're going to be poor. And if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. And this is where I bang my head against the wall. It's so blatantly obvious. It's so obvious. And the good news is people are starting to see it, Joe Pasillo. That's why the Teamsters are there. That's why the African-American vote's up to almost 20%. That's why the Latino vote is starting to swing. Now, as far as saving America, now that's a different conversation.
That's a different story.
I'm talking politics.
Right.
You want to save America? Start by taking your family to church.
That'd be a
Start
really
by
good
praying
idea.
before you eat. Start by, if you're Catholic, take 15 minutes and pray the rosary with your wife.
Right.
That's how you save America.
Right.
Saving America doesn't vote. That doesn't save nothing. That's just politics. That's the grassroots stuff that we have to start with. And that's needed as well.
We'll keep it with the politics and for a second. Remember something: it's the politics on that political level. And again, we know that the Democrats. It really is inappropriate. It is an appropriate word to use to describe that party, as many do, as the Democrats, because they support everything that's evil. But on that political level, okay, Tucker Carlson. We played the clip earlier where he talks about Donald Trump's physical courage. Look at what they tried to do to this guy.
As a political weapon to advance their ideological agenda. So laws that they don't like, they don't enforce. What ends up happening, these societies crumble, public safety crumbles, people flee these areas. And I made it clear in Florida, we're not tolerating that. When we had a prosecutor that was backed by Soros in Tampa who said he was not going to enforce laws in Florida he didn't like, I removed him from his post. He's gone.
Amen. See, here's the thing. You say on the show all the time, we're not in heaven yet. Okay. And that's a different, and ultimately the goal is to get to heaven. Okay. If we're so blessed to be able to do that. But we do have, and you've said this many times, we do have to live in the world. We have to deal with the reality of these situations. Okay. DeSantis, if you look at what they did to Donald Trump and the prosecutions that you saw this week, for those of you out there maybe didn't see the news, Jack Smith, his appointment as special counsel was declared unconstitutional by a judge in Florida. That case is over. Okay, nothing's going to happen as far as that's concerned. But you see what they tried to do when they went after Trump. He gets shot. He starts yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." DeSantis has been. I'm not going to compare here. DeSantis was not. There wasn't an assassination attempt against DeSantis, but DeSantis has been the target of so much hatred and vitriol down there in Florida and nationwide for the things he's done. He is a guy who, not for nothing, I soured on a little bit. I kind of waffled a little bit. I wouldn't have minded if he was chosen to be the vice president, to be honest with you. I'm being honest with you. Okay. Now, again, I'm not looking down my nose at J.D. Vance. I'm going to support J.D. Vance. But DeSantis said it right. When it comes time to fight on that political level, okay, when they try to do things, when they try to do extra legal things, Joe Resinello, get rid of them. When you have the power, do what they do. Bye. I'll accept your resignation or I'll fire you. Either way, you're gone.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to name two things that have to be done immediately. One, any DA, no matter where you are, if you're not prosecuting crimes, you're gone day one. Two, all voting controls have to be put in place across the country. If you don't do that, you are part of the problem. Immediately. We're not having a discussion. That doesn't make me a dictator. That makes me an American that cares for the safety and protection of people. Period. End of story. If people don't have confidence in the election, no more mail-in ballots. There's no reason for it. You have to show ID. No more electronic voting machines. They're paper ballots. Boom. Day one, it's a law. Never again is this going to happen. Ever. Right. And two, any DA, whether it's in Atlanta, New York, Chicago, you're gone. You're gone. And if George Soros and the ilk that is trying to undermine this nation, you take their passport and ship them out. Bye.
I was just going to say,
goodbye.
Gets elected.
You're an enemy of the state.
Even if it's a symbolic act, Joe Resinello, even if it's just a symbolic act, Donald Trump, as president of the United States, needs to declare George Soros, Yuval Harari, Klaus Schwab, and so many of those WEF types that are trying to subvert and destroy our country. He should say they are not allowed in this country. Okay. Their passports are not recognized by the United States government. You cannot come into this country.
That's it. It's that simple. And because you're undermining America. You're undermining America. And I'm not going to permit you to do it. Would you allow someone to undermine your house? No. And therefore, I'm not permitting it. Call me. And here's another thing. Call me whatever you want. I don't care.
I don't care.
That's exactly what people have to say. Whatever. I'm a Nazi. I'm a dictator. No. I'm an American and I'm protecting American citizens. If you are funding people that do not uphold the law, I'm not allowing it. I'm not allowing it. If you're basically putting an election process in place where people don't have confidence in the election, Republican or Democrat, I'm not allowing it. You have a problem with that? Call me whatever you want. I don't care. And that's what DeSantis did. He did that. Good for him. That has to be a policy. That doesn't make me a dictator. That makes me an American. That's common sense. It's nothing more than that. And if you have a problem with that, I'm not your problem. I'm not your problem.
Your problem
and that
is
is just
staring
the
you in
truth.
the mirror. If they have
That's
a problem
the
with that,
truth.
the problem is staring them
You know
in
why?
the mirror.
Because it's power, Joe. They don't care about justice. They don't care about equity. They care about power, and
we
it's
should
their
too, Joe.
power.
And we should too. On
No,
that level, we should
but
too.
it's just equity. That's not what this country is about. People have to get a little broader vision. It's not what the country is about. It never was. And this is what I can't understand, how people can be for this. It just shows you how insidious it is. Dude, I'm going to say it. It's evil.
It is evil.
Evil. The devil is interested in power. God is interested in justice. I am interested in justice. And if you're interested in power and power for power's sake, you're not on the side of God. God is not interested in power. This is sick. And
Right.
this 4 years have been sick. And people are perfectly fine with it. They're perfectly fine with it. And that's a problem.
Joe, if you see the cumulative sickness over the last 4 years, I promise you this, all of that is not going to equate to what they cram into the next 4 months.
Oh,
It's gonna
this
be
is where,
insane.
Joe, there's no question in my mind. They will stop at nothing. They're about to throw Joe Biden under the bus. That's a lesson to Joe Biden and his wife. They used him. I have nothing but pity and sorrow for that man. He's about to die. They used him
Man,
like a
worse yet,
rag doll, and they're
worse
about
yet,
to
he's-
throw him in the garbage. It's pathetic and sad. It's nothing short of evil. It's evil. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not calling people evil. I'm calling your actions evil.
Well,
and
their
I'm going to say
actions are
this.
evil. Go ahead.
People need to repent. This country needs to repent. I'm going to say it. You can't believe the gospel until you repent. America needs to repent before it votes for Donald Trump. God doesn't bless America when it slaughters kids and mutilates teenagers. Sorry. Wrong. It doesn't work that way.
No, Joe, listen, I look, I get it 100%. Needless to say, I agree with you. I look at it this way, just on one level, though, just to say, and I mean this personally. I hope everybody out there knows this. Joe and I both pray for Joe Biden by name, okay? Because that man, like Joe said, needs to repent. Like you said, Joe, I try to refrain from hating Joe Biden, even though he says and does a lot of hateful things. I'm with you. I have more pity for him. He's got one. Not only does he have one foot on a banana peel and the other in the grave, he's got one foot on a banana peel and the other one in hell. Okay. This guy has not lived any sort of. I mean, even if you want to take it out of the Catholic context, okay, and just say a moral life, he has been a thief from the time he got into the Senate. He got rich as a senator. I don't know how you do that. Okay. He's lied up and down his career. He's abused women. The media shoved that under the carpet. He has supported abortion right up to the moment of birth. Okay. He says there's more than two genders, which is ridiculous. Okay. The man is in danger. His soul is in danger more than anything else. And as far as what they're doing to him, first of all, Joe's doing a lot of this to himself. He should just step aside and know that he's got dementia. He's gone. A lot of people are saying that's his wife. That really likes being in the White House and wants to stay there. I'd like to break it to Joe Biden. Even if he stays on, you're not going to be there in 4 months.
These guys are megalomaniacs, Joe. All they care about, all of them, is my legacy. My legacy. What are people
got none.
No, but I'm just saying, like, what are people going to think if I step down? Joe, your presidency was an embarrassment, and now it's such an embarrassment they put you in the basement. You can't even articulate a sentence. The guy that was 98 years old at the Republican convention articulated a message better than Joe Biden. He's 98 and he's not even a politician.
Right.
This is what you're going to vote for? My goodness gracious. And here's another thing. Tens of millions of people are going to vote for that because they have labeled anything that's outside of that box as on the side of Adolf Hitler.
Did you see the video of the chubby lesbian with the New York Yankees cap talking to Joe Biden?
Should be in prison. I did. Said you should take them out. I've seen a number of those. Horrible. Joe,
she goes, time to take him out. She calls Clarence Thomas, this moral degenerate. Guaranteed she's a moral degenerate. Okay. That woman, if even she wants to be called a woman, called Clarence Thomas, Clarence Uncle Thomas, called Trump a bitch and said, it's Joe, you got the power to do it. It's time to take him out. That is the Democrat voter, Joe.
How many people are saying that in their house? Joe, this is not even this is not a guess. It's a guarantee.
Right.
There are so many people that said that in their house on Saturday. This is a healthy nation. God is going to bless such a nation. America has to get its house in order before we worry about the politics. And our house isn't in order. It's not even close to being in order.
Well, that's why people like you and I are out here. And that's why a lot of people are out here. Because look, we're all going to try to do our part. You and I are going to keep going. I don't care if one person's watching or 50,000 people are watching. We're going to keep doing it because the bottom line is, Joe, you change hearts one at a time. Okay. So if you're out there, you're in the breach, you're in the war, you're in the fight. Okay. We don't fight with guns and bullets. All right. We fight with righteousness. All right. Because we fight with truth. That's a person, not a concept. Okay. It's Jesus Christ. And that's how you can see clearly through all this nonsense. So please, if you like what Joe and I do here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, wherever you're watching this, please like, subscribe, share, particularly on X, particularly on Rumble. We really want to build up there. But hey, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, please like, subscribe, share there. Also help us out. We go live Thursday nights at 9:00 Eastern time. And we're happy to do so. We have a blast every time we come on. Please tell your friends to watch the show also. And all of our interviews we do for the radio in Connecticut and Westchester and Northern Long Island on the Veritas Catholic Network. We have all of those on all of our sites, Rumble, X, Facebook, and YouTube, and we think you're going to enjoy those. So Joe and I got to say goodbye, and we're going to leave you with a clip from the president of El Salvador, Joe Resinello. He gets it. See you next week.
Mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office. Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador. Thank God, and all the glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence.